Saskatoon Community Foundation asks that you provide a variety of information to support your application for funding. And of course, it's all important to us or we wouldn't be asking you for it. The information you provide helps us to make difficult decisions. Please understand there are always many more good projects than we can fund in any application cycle. We try to make the best decisions we can for the community with the resources we can provide. Financial statements help us to understand the stability and cash position of your organization. Demographic information helps us understand who's being served by your project. We try to see past the words you write in your application to what will actually happen out there in the community. But what is really most important in an application? There are three main areas where you can do the most to help your application succeed. I'm going to use the example of a school breakfast program, but the points I'll make can apply to any project. First of all, we offer character limits on all questions within an application. So you need to come to your point efficiently. Sometimes grant applicants will spend a lot of space explaining why the work is important. We get it. You're passionate about your organization's mission. But limit how much space you spend explaining the issue. Tell us how many kids you'll feed, who they are, what you will feed them, and how often. In other words, tell us what you will do with the funds. Likewise, in the section on strategy or approach, explain how your methodology for delivering service is effective in achieving good outcomes. Let's start with a distinction between outputs and outcomes. Outputs are the numbers of things that you do. So in this example, outputs are how many meals were fed to how many kids on how many days. It's not bad to report on outputs, but it's more compelling to report about outcomes. Outcomes are what will change because of those meals. Will the kids' health improve? Will their behavior or academic performance improve? How do you know, and how can you measure that change? Testimonials are also okay, but not as compelling as a measured outcome. If you can measure change of some sort, you're proving that your program works and has a good impact. Always remember, a grant application is a request for money, so a complete and clear budget is essential. Issues with a budget are among the top reasons why applications end up not being supported. There are two basic parts to a budget, revenues and expenses, and both require some attention to detail. We want to see a complete picture of the revenues required for your project, not just the grant funds you request from us. So don't list your grant request on one line and then summarize other grants, donations, and fundraising together on one other line. Instead, separate the major sources of revenue. We recognize that grant applications come at different times in the calendar year, so depending on timing, not all the proposed sources of revenue will be confirmed at the time you make your application. That's okay. Just note for us which sources of revenues are confirmed or currently pending. If a large portion of the revenues are being covered by your organization's operating budgets or other donations, it tends to sound like you could fund the project on your own, or you haven't really considered where the funds need to come from. It's a good idea to include your in-kind sources as well. So if you're seconding staff to a project that are already paid by your organization or another funder, or if volunteer time contributions make up a significant part of a project, you can include the estimated cost as both revenue and expense. Just like the revenue side of the budget, it's a good idea to separate the major categories of expenses. We don't need to know how many paper clips you'll use, but we would like to see wages, facilities, food, program equipment, transportation, advertising, and other major categories of expense broken out. If too much is summarized under a single line, we don't see a clear picture of the costs for the program. Budgets should be balanced and should include the grant amount requested in the revenue side. It's okay to have more potential revenue sources if you're not sure which might end up being realized at the time that you make your application. When we review grant applications, we're looking for what will happen in the project, not necessarily the fanciest writing. Not all applications can be funded in any grant cycle, even though we might like to do so. Funds are limited. If you keep your application simple, direct, and clear, you'll have your best chance of receiving support. Good luck, and remember, we're here to help.